Hey guys, so a while ago I put out a video titled, I've been in America for 13 years and I still have not reached native speaker level, or along the lines of that. Now, admittedly, I was the one to use such a clickbaity title because that's how social media works, but I was hoping that most people will watch the entire video and walk away with the idea that it's not so black and white. My main thing is, one, it's not necessary. Two, if you're fixating on accent and use it as a benchmark as to whether or not you're native, that's not professional. You don't know what's up. And third, in some rare occasions, you can actually surpass native speakers, or at least in terms of vocabulary. So in this video, I want to talk about some examples, my personal examples, as well as other people that I know in real life, people that I see on TV, those examples that demonstrate how likely and possible it is to surpass a native speaker. Aside from some rudimentary grammar mistakes like there, your, would've versus would-of, when it comes to complex vocabulary or complex sentence structures, native speakers and non-native speakers alike kind of go through the same thinking processes. We're on a level playing ground, right? For instance, a few weeks ago, I was kind of arguing with someone on the internet. Somebody was making fun of the fact that they are pretending to not recognize Michael B. Jordan, obviously very famous Oscar-winning actor of 2026. So everybody recognized him, right? And if you didn't, everybody else around you will tell you who he is. So the post was pretending to not recognize who this person is, and a lot of people didn't get the joke. So I was coming to the rescue of this original post, whoever posted it. I was like, hey guys, I think they're just being facetious. I think they clearly know who Michael B. Jordan is. And someone was most people liked my comment, except for one person who was like, hey, you're using facetious wrong. And my first instinct, being a non-native speaker, is obviously to double check. And before I even posted that comment rather, I checked myself, I checked my sources, I looked it up in multiple dictionaries to make sure that yes, you can use facetious in this particular situation. Now, it doesn't mean that you can only use facetious. And in fact, most people would say, oh, so-and-so is just being sarcastic and ironic, which this person pointed out. He was like, you could just use simpler versions. And me being me, I was like, sure, synonyms exist. You could use kind of a dupe, an easier version of the word, but it doesn't mean that the word I used was wrong. And here's my receipt. Here's the screenshots that I took on multiple dictionary apps. And he fell silent. So at least in that one instance, I would say my vocab, at least in terms of its quality, is better than whoever this person is. I don't want to just talk about myself, but the people that I look up to, oftentimes people that have bigger vocab are not native English speakers. So I'll give you two examples. One, another Oscar-winning actor, Christoph Waltz. He speaks 3 languages fluently, as far as I know. German, his native language, French, his neighboring language, and English. And aside from a few accents and mispronunciation, just slip-ups in general, I find that he actually speaks a lot more eloquently, a lot more meticulously, rather than oftentimes his native counterparts.
There are a few people in this world who speak several languages. It's not such an accomplishment, really. But, what does it mean to speak a language? And to what aim and what goals does a person employ the usage of language? And on what level does he communicate? Is it just verbalization of quotidian, necessities? Or is he actually using language to put ideas into other people's minds? Is language like something that creates a reality, or is language something that adapts to a reality?
And another example is Esther Perel. She's kind of a speaker, a thinker on relationships, particularly romantic relationships. The books that she wrote, first of all, she wrote in English, and her native language is Polish, Hebrew, French, German, and then English in that order. I think she was born in Poland, and then obviously being Jewish, she was taught Hebrew, and then she grew up in Switzerland, so she spoke German and French. And then to find out that she wrote her entire body of work mostly in English, and then she had to find someone to translate it into French and German and all her other languages was unbelievable. That's the level of greatness that I aspire to.
I think the big killer, more than any other, is contempt. Contempt involves a dismissal of the other person, a dehumanization, a disregard. I would say contempt and indifference.
And oftentimes people would listen to her lecture and comment, oh my God, I didn't even know that word existed before. For instance, vicissitude. To this day, I think I've only heard vicissitude one time, other than from her speeches and her books. The point I'm trying to make is that sometimes native speakers get complacent or they're too young, right? If I'm talking to a teenager right now, 9 times out of 10, I would say something. I would say a word that they don't recognize. Another instance would be someone that works in the hospital, someone that works in the medical field. If you talk to just your regular schmegular average Joe who doesn't know any of the medical terminologies, obviously you will sound smarter. You will actually know more words. So in that instance, in that world at least, your English is quote unquote better than them. I just wanted to make this video to kind of counterbalance the negativity, the pessimistic attitude that I accidentally or inadvertently kind of evoked from my last video. Yeah, I hope this video made you feel a lot more hopeful, a lot more optimistic about your language learning process. So, bye.